to signal to the market and through the Groceries Commissioner a fairer pricing regime going forward.
Question number 9, the Honourable Ginny Anderson.
To the Minister of Police, how many constabulary full-time equivalents does police expect to need to train each year for the next 2 years in order to maintain the 1 to 480 ratio? And will the government's commitment for no fewer than 500 new frontline police within the first 2 years be in addition to that?
Honourable Mark Mitchell.
Mr. Speaker, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm advised that the 1 to 480 ratio was never finalised, nor was it funded adequately by the previous government.
Honourable Ginny Anderson.
Will the number of constabulary full-time equivalents be 500 higher in 2 years' time?
Your question. I didn't even hear it. Can you do that again?
Will the number of constabulary full-time equivalents be 500 higher in 2 years' time?
Well, and the police numbers matter, and we're committed to the coalition agreement that we have with New Zealand First. They delivered 1,800 additional police officers, and they're now committed to an additional 500.
We've had 2 questions to the Minister of Police and he hasn't answered either of the questions. One of them was a primary question on notice. If you go and have a look at the primary question on notice, it was how many constabulary full-time equivalents does police expect to need to train each year for the next 2 years in order to maintain the 1 to 480 ratio? And will he commit to there being no fewer than 500 new frontline police within 2 years? He didn't answer that. That was a primary question on notice.
No, he did. He actually said... well, just a minute. What he actually said was that he didn't agree with that the 1 to 480 ratio was ever funded. That would seem to be a reasonable answer. But, Mr Bishop?
Made my point.
Right.
Point of order, Mr Speaker.
Yeah, point of order.
The question would have had to be authenticated. Therefore, you have accepted that the question is valid. Therefore, you should require the Minister to provide an answer.
As you know, many times there are questions that are asked in this House that the argument of authentication has been run and not necessarily accepted by the Minister who's answering the question. Now, what I do is irrelevant here. What he says is what the House gets as an answer in addressing a question. I'm sorry that that's the way it is. It's not changed from when other ministers
Point of order,
announced
Mr.
the
Speaker.
House.
I recall a previous shadow leader of the House asking a then Speaker whether or not a minister could stand up and simply say rhubarb in answer to a question, because at that point the Speaker had ruled very similarly to what you have ruled today, that simply standing up and giving an answer was sufficient to address the question. So I once again raised the point of order that was raised by the then Honourable Jerry Brownlee to the then Speaker, I can't remember which Speaker it was at the time, as to whether or not that continues to apply.
Well, I can assure you that the Honourable Jerry Brownlee got a very unsatisfactory answer at that time, and I'm sorry I can't give you a better one now.
Further point of order?
No, we've got David Seymour. Point of order, David Seymour.
Mr Speaker, I've got some sympathy for the point that Chris Hipkins is raising, but if he thought it was important, he should have raised it at the time, not 1 or 2 questions later.
Yeah, thank you for that advice. Honourable Grant Robertson.
Mr Speaker, acknowledging the ruling you've made, how was Mr Mitchell's answer to the primary question an answer to the second leg of the primary question?
So, can you say that again? Sorry, I didn't...
So the second, how was the answer that Mr Mitchell gave to the primary question an answer to the second leg of the question? The first leg of the question, indeed, was about the ratio. We may differ on whether or not that was addressed, but the second question was part of the question was most definitely not addressed.
Well, I thought he had actually said that he expected for that to be the number, but if I'm wrong, Honourable Chris Bishop.
He didn't.
He didn't.
Right. Honourable Ginny Anderson.
Supplementary. Is he aware that 500 additional police officers over 2 years is not enough to even replace attrition? And is he comfortable overseeing a reduction in frontline numbers?
Well, the 500 is additional police officers. The challenge that we've got as an incoming government is that it's become very apparent to us that the police have got big challenges around recruiting. The recruiting pipeline, there's pressure on that. We've got the Australians here recruiting our police officers. we've got a lot of officers coming up to retirement age. So she should understand that there's challenges there, but the good news is the police remain committed to delivering an additional 500 police officers.
Supplementary.
Honourable Jenny Anderson.
How can the New Zealand public have confidence in him if he expects to oversee an overall decrease in constabulary frontline numbers?
Well, they can have confidence in me and this government because we take public safety seriously.
Honourable Jenny Anderson.
Does he expect New Zealanders to feel safer with fewer police on our streets? And if not, what is he going to do about it?
Well, there's not going to be fewer police on the streets, number one. Number two, police officers are actually going to be on the front line, serving the communities that they work in. And number three, you've got a serious government now that actually takes public safety seriously, and the country's going to be safer.
Come to question number 10 in the name of Rema Nakli.